first, let me give you a little bit of background about myself. So my name is Suzanne Yin. I got an undergrad degree from Brown University in biology. I got a master's degree in wildlife and fisheries sciences from Texas A&M University. Now, why did I choose to become a marine mammal scientist? The answer is I didn't really choose to do that. It was something that I really wanted to do, and I kind of thought that I would try and do it until I couldn't do it. And then I would get a job at Trader Joe's or Costco or do something else. And so I always thought, okay, well, I'll do this one job and I'll go out in the field and I'll do right whales or I'll do spinner dolphins. And then when the next thing happens and there's nothing left, then I'll go get a real job. And for almost 30 years now, I've been doing something else. Something keeps coming up. And so I guess I didn't really choose to do it, but I've been able to do it. And I've been very privileged to be able to just continue to work on various projects in marine mammal science. So I have to say, a lot of this job and this career has to do with who you know. And a great deal of it has to do with luck. And so I was working, let's see, how did this start out? I went out on a research vessel. There was a thing called ORES, which was Ocean Research and Education Society, where you spent 6 weeks on land in Gloucester and then 6 weeks in a classroom. 6 weeks in a classroom and then 6 weeks on a ship out in Silverbank. And that was my first taste of humpback whale ecology. And while I was there, I met someone who said, hey, you seem okay at this. Why don't you, when you get back to land, why don't you see if you want to apply to this job at Earthwatch? And I said, okay, I don't really know what Earthwatch is, but sure, that sounds great. And so I looked up Earthwatch and I thought that would be a fun place to work for a while. And I wrote him and he said, hey, yeah, why don't you come in and we'll have an interview with you and we'll see how it goes. And if you don't know what Earthwatch is, it's an international organization that provides paying volunteers that help support scientific research. And so while I was at Earthwatch, some of the people that I met were people that I thought, wow, that's really what I'd like to do. I'd really like to work on humpback whales in Hawaii. And so when one of the guys, Adam Frankel, came to give a talk, I gave him a copy of my resume. It wasn't even a CV yet, it was just a resume. I hadn't done anything yet as far as marine mammal stuff, except for the one thing in the Caribbean. And 6 months later, Adam Frankel asked me if I could come to Hawaii. And I said, yes. And he said, well, will there be some conflict with Earthwatch? And I said, no, because I just quit my job. I'm in my last 3 days of my job here at Earthwatch. And when people had asked me, what are you going to do after Earthwatch? You don't have a job. I said, well, I'm going to pack up my car and I'm going to drive across the country and I'm going to ship my car to Hawaii and do humpback whale research. And people reminded me that it was winter in Boston. And was I really going to drive across the country in winter? And I said, yes, this is my plan, because I didn't have a plan, and that really wasn't what I was going to do. There was no way I was driving my car across the country in winter. But then Adam called on a Wednesday. My last day was Friday. And a week and a half later, I was in Hawaii doing humpback whale research, which was amazing. And then I got done with that field season, and I actually went back to Earthwatch, because I knew how to do the work, and they had some turnover during the summer. And I met a woman who said, how was Hawaii? And I said, well, Hawaii was fantastic. There is nothing like being out on the water with whales. And she said, you should contact this person. He might have some availability. And that person was Scott Krause. And so I contacted Scott Krause and said, hi, I just met this person in the hallway at Earthwatch, and she suggested I call you. And he said, oh yeah, we're going up to Lubeck in a couple of weeks. Why don't you come on up? Now granted, my first couple of positions, I didn't get paid. And I understand that's really hard. I went into some debts, and they give you room and board, but you have to get there. And but the thing is, if you can make a big impression on those people that you first meet early, if you do your work, you keep your head down, and you just work your butt off. You learn as much as you can. You get along with people. They're going to remember you. And when they have another project, if Scott had a project doing harbor porpoise, and I got to go do theodolite tracking of harbor porpoise. When Adam had another field season, he's like, hey, would you like to come back? And so it's really important, because this community is so small, that if you sort of mess up or slack off or don't get along with a lot of people, it's going to close a lot of doors to you, because everybody talks. It's such a small community that people are going to say, hey, you just worked with Yin on a project. How was she? Ooh, she really doesn't like chocolate, or she's really kind of a fan of pizza. She really did the work. She was willing to scrub the growth off the boat. That's going to really help you a lot. So this is not an easy field to get into. It's very competitive. There are a lot of people who are smarter than I am, who can work harder than I am, but you have to be persistent. And I think one of the really hard things is being away from home. You are away from home a lot. I work on a ship probably 6 to 8 months of the year, and you are away from home. You're on a ship where you have no control over what you get to eat. So my last project was dominated by ham. If you're a vegetarian or someone who's trying to eat less meat, there's limited opportunities for you to eat, and that's a problem. My last ship also had some issues with drinking water, and that's kind of an essential part of your daily maintenance. So you have to be flexible. You really have to be flexible and keep an open mind, and you have to get along with people who have different political beliefs than you do, who may have different religious beliefs than you do, and you just have to get along, because you are on a ship with this person 24 hours a day for 7 days a week for months at a time. The other thing is that there's limited communication. Often you're on a ship that has poor internet, and so much of the world now, so much of the news we get and music and connecting with friends and family is all through the internet. And you have to be willing, and your family and your friends do as well, they have to be willing and able to work harder at communicating with you. We've gotten into sort of an area where it's super easy for me to get in touch with you through WhatsApp or through a text. And when you can't do that, and when you don't know what's going on at home, it can weigh on you, and you have to have the right mentality to be able to go away for that long. It is often difficult being a woman on a ship, or a woman in an environment that is often male-dominated. So recently I was on a project where there were 25 guys and me. And so, you look around and you think, and I have to work harder, and I also have to remember that for some people, you are the only woman marine biologist, cetacean biologist that they're going to meet. And a lot of their expectations, a lot of their prejudices will all be reflected on you, because you're the only one there. There's no one to spread it around to. And so you need to make a good impression. So I try not to get angry at people, which is really hard. Everybody gets angry, but you really need to be able to kind of talk your way through things and not let things escalate to a level where you are just hating someone on a ship, because there's nowhere you can go. I've been told by men on ships that women don't belong on a ship, and if they are on a ship, they don't belong on the bridge. They should be in the galley. And you just have to prove yourself. You have to prove that those belugas that you see are really beluga. You have to prove that you can take photos and you're good at what you do. So it can be a challenge, but you just need to have the support of your friends and family. That's the other thing. I have a lot of friends and who do the same things that I do, and I can say, oh my gosh, this happened to me today, where the Time magazine was just marked up every time, one political candidate was in there, she was marked up with bitch, and it was just written, her face was X'd out, and you just have to get through it. I would say friends. My friends and colleagues are super important, because I have some skills. Everybody has skills, everybody has a superpower. Everybody think about your superpower. My friends are one of my superpowers, so I may not understand how to do modeling, but I know people who do, and I can find them and seek them out and say, we have this great data set of humpback whales over 19 years in the Hawaiian Islands. I don't really know how to analyze this using this modeling technique. Or, I'm having a little problem with the acoustics and understanding how we're having this flutter in our hydrophone. And there are people that I can go to and I can talk to. And that's the thing, you need to be able to seek out help. The people that are in I belong to a small nonprofit in Hawaii, and we have different skills, and it's wonderful. One of the guys in our nonprofit is very good at math, technology, coding, writing things in R, writing things in MATLAB. I have no idea how to do that at all. Another person in our nonprofit is really good at writing, and she's just an amazing writer. My skill is that I can see typos. I can see typos, I can see things that are inconsistent. And I'm very good at massaging the data and getting it into the form that they want. And so we all have our role to play. Other skills it's really good to have lots of different skills. So if I were to do this again, I would learn a lot more about coding and GIS, because I don't know how to do that at all. But it's good to know how to tool around with an outboard engine. It's good to know how to drive a small boat. It's really good how to know how to take photos. And the really good thing is to be cross-platform, like you know how to use a Canon and know how to use a Nikon. If you're handed a camera, know how to check the settings and do it beforehand. I mean, trying to impress someone, you could really only get that first choice, first chance. You're out in a small boat and they hand you a camera and they want you to take pictures of terciops. That's not the time to be like, okay, well, I'm not sure. Are you on RAW or JPEG, or is the time set correctly? And you want to know how to do that as soon as they hand that camera to you. And so you need to do your homework. And so I think one of the things you really need to have as a skill is to be prepared. And one of my superpowers is that I like to plan. I'm a very good planner. I will bring tools that I might think I need with me, and then when I need them, I have them. I don't have to go ask the ship. I don't have to go dig around somewhere else. And so I think that and flexibility. We have a saying in the field that you have to be relentlessly flexible, because you don't know what's going to happen when you get up in the morning. You don't know that you're going to find some fishermen that have been drifting for 4 days without food and water, which just happened to us. That takes away hours of ship time because you're saving these people's lives. But you also can wake up in the morning and find out that it's Beaufort 6 and it's so windy that you can't do anything at all and you need to figure out something to do. But then you can wake up in the morning and it can be Beaufort 0 and you can see the marlin chasing a mahi underwater. And that is just amazing. And I'll tell you that the mahi lost. The marlin got its supper that day, and it was pretty amazing to see. So, yeah, there's just so many different things that you need, and you can't just focus on one. Well, I have to say technology is really become more and more important. And I think there are going to be more and more partnerships with people who do things with types of technology that I have no skills at. So whether that's drones or infrared cameras or other types of camera devices or other UAVs, I think there's going to be more and more partnerships. As far as I can tell right now, the observer team, the folks that do sort of what I do, are still needed. So maybe I should say what I do is that I spend a lot of time on large ocean-going vessels that have big eye binoculars, which are 25 by 150 power binoculars. They're giant. They're bigger than this, and they are mounted on a stand. And you look through them, and you try to find marine mammals. And we have in one of the oculars, one of the eyepieces, there are horizontal lines called reticles, which are used to determine distance. And so between the bearings that we can get from an angle ring on our big eye yoke and the reticles, we can determine a position of a marine mammal. We put it into some specialized software, and we do a lot of line transit abundance cruises where we collect species identification. We may break for the animals and do ancillary projects such as biopsy, photo identification for stock assessment, for pregnancy rates, we could do some photogrammetry, we can do a variety of other things. There's also acoustics on board, sometimes there's oceanography where they're doing XBTs and CTDs. So I think it's become more and more challenging to get ship time. Ships are expensive, and it's with a changing political environment, with changing priorities on what needs to be done, their funding is very tight. Ship time can be very tight. And so I think there are going to be more and more partnerships between different probably branches of science where the oceanographers or maybe even the geophysicists have some ship time and they allow us to piggyback on their cruise with them. I know that for the Southwest Fisheries Science Center, they had a partnership with the Fisheries Research Division where the Marine Mammal Turtle Division and the Fisheries Division shared a ship, and we were actually able to do most of both of our goals. And that we were, they did stuff at night, we did stuff during the day when we could use our visual techniques, and they could at night they could do net tows and different other types of sampling so that they could achieve their goals. And I think that's going to become more and more prevalent in the future. I think the next generation of marine mammal scientists is going to be someone who has a lot of different hats. They're going to be able to communicate well on social media. They're going to be able to code. They're going to be able to talk to their friends who can do other things like fly a drone or process big data, right? Big data is going to be something that we're going to have to get kind of more of a handle on. I think a lot of us are starting to just dip our toes into that water where we're approaching these big companies that do big data, and we have a lot of data. What do we do with this? How do we manage to get through all of this? There's no way we can physically sit and process all this information ourselves. But I still think the key is knowing people, and you're going to need to seek out and make partnerships with people and collaboration and get that synergy going, and find ways, maybe think outside the box. Like, oh, this guy works with teeth. Maybe he might know something about enamel that you had never thought about. Work with something else. Maybe you need to work with some seabird biologists or some turtle biologists. But I think funding is going to be tight, and I think you're going to need to find friends.